The same American slaughterhouse, the same cutting floor, the same workers, the same equipment, the same brand name on the box. One product goes to China, certified Ractopamine-Free, verified, segregated, documented at every step of the cold chain. The importing country requires it. The other product goes to you. No certification, no testing, no label that tells you which version you received. The FDA approved this drug based on a study of 6 men. One left early, his heart would not stop pounding. By the time this is over, you will know the name of the certification that guarantees you the export version, the one 168 nations require, and exactly how to find it on a label at any grocery store in America. You will understand why the industry that builds the certified product for Shanghai and Brussels has never been required to offer it to you. And you will know why a federal agency, forced into court after 12 years of silence, finally responded to that question in February 2025 and said no. The drug was approved in December 1999. The single human safety study used to justify that approval involved 6 healthy young men. One was removed before it ended because his heart began racing and pounding abnormally. That study was never redesigned. A larger one was never conducted. In 2023, the manufacturer spent $1,607,000 lobbying the federal government. The approval stands. Ractopamine is a beta-adrenergic agonist. That means it binds to the same receptors your body uses during an adrenaline response. In the animal, it redirects metabolic energy away from fat storage and toward muscle growth. The result is a leaner, heavier animal produced on the same amount of feed. The production numbers are real and not disputed. Pigs fed ractopamine yield approximately 3 additional kilograms of lean meat per animal. Feed efficiency improves by roughly 10%. The manufacturer calculated that this translates to $2 additional of profit per pig. In cattle, a meta-analysis of more than 50 independent peer-reviewed studies confirmed increases in weight gain, hot carcass weight, and longissimus muscle area. The drug is not administered during the animal's growth phase. It is administered during the final 28 to 42 days before slaughter. The withdrawal period is 0 days. The drug is present in the animal at the moment of harvest. What is also documented in peer-reviewed literature, not by advocacy groups, but by researchers at Colorado State University's Center for Meat Safety and Quality, is what ractopamine does to the texture of the meat it produces. The drug inhibits normal protein breakdown during the aging process. In a 2014 study using standard industry shear force measurement, the probability of a steak failing to meet certified tender standards increased from below 6% in untreated cattle to between 10 and 20% in cattle fed higher doses of ractopamine. A separate meta-analysis of more than 50 trials measured the increase in cutting resistance, the scientific measure of how hard you must work to cut through a cooked piece of beef, at nearly half a standard deviation above control animals. You are paying the same price per pound. You may be receiving a measurably tougher cut. 168 nations have decided that the exchange is not acceptable. The United States has decided it is. The question no regulatory document has ever answered is this: who was consulted when that decision was made on your behalf, and whether that party's interests and yours were the same? On December 22, 1999, the Food and Drug Administration approved new animal drug application ractopamine hydrochloride under the brand name Payleen for use in finishing swine. The approval relied primarily on safety studies conducted by the drug's manufacturer, Elanco Animal Health, a division of Eli Lilly. The single human pharmacological study submitted to establish the acceptable daily intake involved 6 healthy young men. At doses of 15 milligrams and above, the study recorded 9 separate reports of racing heartbeat and 5 reports of heart pounding across those 6 subjects. One subject was withdrawn before receiving the 40 milligram dose due to cardiovascular adverse events. The European Food Safety Authority, reviewing this identical study in its 2009 opinion, calculated that the study's sample size lacked the statistical power to detect even a 40% change in cardiac output. A study used to establish that a drug is safe for human consumption, the authority concluded, could not mathematically demonstrate it. That study was never replaced. In 2002, 3 years after the approval, the Food and Drug Administration's Center for Veterinary Medicine sent Elanco a 14-page warning letter. The agency had discovered that Elanco failed to report farmer phone calls describing dying animals, pigs too weak to walk, animals down and shaking, vomiting after eating ractopamine-laced feed. The letter, signed by Gloria Donovan, director of the Division of Compliance, accused the company of withholding information about the drug's safety and effectiveness, the same information on which the original approval had been based. The following year, the FDA approved Ractopamine for cattle. By March 2011, the agency's own records documented more than 218,000 adverse event reports in pigs fed ractopamine, more than any other animal drug in the American market. Hyperactivity, trembling, broken limbs, inability to walk, death. The FDA added a warning to the drug's label. Ractopamine may increase the number of injured and fatigued pigs during marketing. The approval was not reconsidered. $1,607,000 in lobbying in a single year by the manufacturer to the government that holds the approval. On July 5, 2012, the Codex Alimentarius Commission, the United Nations body that sets international food safety standards, voted to establish a maximum residue limit for ractopamine. The vote was 69 in favor, 67 against. 50 members did not vote. Countries with major meat export interests had been working toward that standard for years. A Codex limit would allow the United States to challenge national bans at the World Trade Organization as trade barriers rather than legitimate safety decisions. Michael Hansen, representing Consumers International, 220 consumer organizations across 115 countries, described the outcome directly. Trade concerns had overridden science. The European Union, China, and Russia refused to accept the standard. They kept their bans, and then they stated their import conditions plainly. The European Union requires that American exporters certify their beef is Ractopamine-free before it enters the market. China's policy is zero tolerance. Any detectable residue results in shipment destruction. Russia banned American beef imports and stated the ban would remain until the United States agreed to certify the meat was Ractopamine-free. So the American industry built 2 supply chains inside the same facilities. In May 2024, the USDA's Food Safety and Inspection Service published notice that China had detected ractopamine in a batch of frozen beef products exported from JBS's plant in Greeley, Colorado. The products were destroyed. The facility was suspended from China export eligibility. Chicago Mercantile Exchange cattle futures posted their largest single-day percentage drop since May 2021. Canada built a different response. The Canadian Food Inspection Agency runs a Ractopamine-Free pork certification program. Segregation is maintained at the cold storage facility level. The program exists because export markets required it. The American domestic market was never given the same option as a default. In 2019, Hormel stopped processing ractopamine-fed pigs. In late 2019 and early 2020, JBS and Tyson Foods followed, not because the Food and Drug Administration required it, because China and the European Union were too valuable to lose. The American consumer has no comparable leverage. No comparable program was created in response to domestic demand. The USDA approved a voluntary label, Never Fed Beta Agonists, in 2015. No mandatory testing, no required disclosure on unlabeled product, no enforcement mechanism. The export customer got a certified supply chain. You got an optional sticker. You are standing in the meat aisle. Fluorescent light, cold air from the case, rows of shrink-wrapped cuts, each with a price per pound, each with a USDA inspection stamp that tells you the facility was approved, not what the animal consumed in its final 30 days. You pick up a package of beef. The label says nothing about ractopamine. No symbol, no code, no asterisk. There is no way to determine from that label whether this animal arrived at the slaughter floor on its own legs or was carried there. There is no way to know whether the facility that processed this beef shipped a separate certified Ractopamine-Free product to a buyer in Shanghai or Frankfurt the same week. You put it in your cart. 600 miles away, inside the same company's export division, a separate shipment moves through a separate documentation chain. Ractopamine-free certification attached. Third-party verified. Bound for a port that will reject it if the paperwork is incomplete. Both products have the same brand name on the box. You drive home. You cook the beef. You sit down. The people who made the decision that only one version of this product needed to be disclosed, labeled, and tracked, they made that decision in a regulatory proceeding. The proceeding had participants. Those participants had interests. One of them spent $1,607,000 in a single year maintaining access to the same proceeding. You did not receive a notice. You were not invited. You set down your fork. The word for the distance between what was decided and what you were told is not conspiracy. It is structure, built deliberately, maintained expensively, invisible until you know where to look. A farmer named Will Harris operates White Oak Pastures in Bluffton, Georgia. His operation, one of the most documented direct-to-consumer grass-fed beef operations in the United States, has never used beta-agonist drugs. His cattle are certified under the American Grass-Fed Association standard, which explicitly prohibits ractopamine. The certification is third-party verified. White Oak Pastures ships directly to consumers across the country. Harris is not an outlier. He is a category. The American Grass-Fed Association certification prohibits ractopamine. USDA-certified organic prohibits all synthetic beta-agonists. Any beef carrying that label cannot legally come from a ractopamine-treated animal. The USDA's official listing of approved never-fed beta-agonists programs is publicly accessible and updated regularly. It names specific producers and processors who have submitted to third-party audits. Chipotle sources beef that meets a no beta-agonist specification. Neiman Ranch does not use ractopamine. Whole Foods Markets operates under an animal welfare rating system that prohibits it at every level. These are not fringe operators. They are buyers large enough to restructure supplier behavior at scale. The petition demanding the Food and Drug Administration respond to this evidence was filed in 2012. The agency did not respond for 12 years. It responded in February 2025. Forced by a federal lawsuit filed in March 2024 by the Animal Legal Defense Fund, the Center for Biological Diversity, the Center for Food Safety, and the Food Animal Concerns Trust in the United States District Court for the District of Columbia. When the FDA finally answered, it denied the petition. In its denial, the agency acknowledged in writing that ractopamine causes gait problems, reduction in bone mass and strength, inability to walk, broken limbs, and death in treated animals. It declined to classify the drug as unsafe. More than 50 organizations, led by Friends of the Earth, immediately petitioned for reconsideration, citing what they called the agency's failure to engage with its own evidence. The reconsideration petition named the current FDA commissioner directly. It invoked the Make America Healthy Again framework. The outcome is pending. In the meantime, the exit is 3 words on a label: never fed beta agonists, or 2, USDA organic, or 4, American Grass-Fed Association certified. Each of these terms has a legal definition, a third-party verification requirement, and a documented supply chain behind it. The export buyer in Shanghai knew to ask for that documentation. Now you do too. The American regulatory system approved a drug for domestic consumption that 168 nations rejected. Then it helped build the certified alternative those nations required and sold it to them. The mechanism that determines which product reaches your plate is not a safety standard. It is the size of the market demanding something different, and whether that market is yours. 10 years from now, people who never checked the label will still be buying the unverified version from the same facilities, without knowing the certified alternative exists inside the same building. You will stand in a grocery store, read 3 words on a package, and know exactly what supply chain is behind them, what 12 years of federal silence cost, and what one lawsuit finally forced into the record. That is not a small thing. A system only functions invisibly on people who do not know its name. If this opens something for you, if the dual supply chain, the 6-man study, the 12-year silence is something you cannot unsee, subscribe so you do not miss the next system we uncover. Every investigation on this channel follows the same thread. A decision made without your knowledge, by institutions with a financial interest in the outcome, about something entering your body. Share this with someone who buys beef every week and has never seen the label that tells them which version they are receiving. The certified version exists. It has existed since 2015. It was built for a foreign customer.